Good afternoon, everybody, and I think we'll make a start. So, welcome to this meeting of the Climate Emergency Advisory Committee. My name is Councillor Katie Dye, and I will be chairing today's meeting. Could I remind everyone that today's meeting is being live streamed on the City Council YouTube channel so the public can observe the meeting without needing to be present. So we're going to do a round of introductions. I'm going to ask members of the committee to introduce themselves first. And then we'll go round and we'll have officers and visitors introducing themselves. Can I remind you to push the button to talk and then mute it when you have finished speaking, please. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Councillor Bromley, Horsforth and Rawdon.
Good afternoon, Councillor Mohammed Shazad, Moortown and Meanwood Ward.
Afternoon, everyone. Councillor Andy Rowntree from Kirkstall Ward.
Afternoon, everyone. Mohammed Rafiq, Chapel Alton Ward, also Exec Board Member for Climate, Energy, Environment and Green Spaces.
Good afternoon, Councillor Ray from Bromley and Stanningley Ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Stables from Wetherby Ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Harrington from Wetherby Ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Barry Anderson, Adlin Wharfdale Ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Rick Downs, Otley and Eden Ward.
Thank you very much. So now we'll do introductions from officers and from people who are going to speak to us today. So shall we go around this way?
Good afternoon, Rachel Waterhouse, Policy Officer from Climate, Energy and Green Spaces team.
Good afternoon, I'm Claire Heap, Visitor Economy Manager within Employment and Skills.
Oh, push to talk, sorry. I'm Ian Nolan from LS Events with the Round Hay Festival.
Good afternoon, Toby Russell, Clerk to the Committee.
Good afternoon, Polly Cook, Chief Officer, Climate, Energy and Green Spaces.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you for people who have given up their time to come talk to us today, and thank you for members of the committee for being here. We will go through the first items on the agenda. So Toby, do you want to take us through the first five?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So item 1's appeals. We have no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Item number 2, we have no exempt information on today's agenda. Item number 3, we have no formal late items. Item 4 is interest, so I can ask members to make any interest they might have. No, thank you. And item number 5, apologies for absence. So we have received apologies for absence from Councillor Oliver Newton, Councillor Judah and Councillor Carl is going to be joining us from 2:30. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Toby. So next item is item 6, which is for us to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was on the 19th of January, and to discuss any matters arising. So as always, I'm going to go through them page by page. If there's anything you'd like to raise, either anything that you'd like to correct or any matters arising from that page, please mention it. So the first one is page 5 in your agenda pack. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. 12. Page 13. And 14. Okay, so we can approve those as a true record of the last meeting, and nobody's raised any matters arising, so in that case we'll move on. Thank you very much. So next item is item 7, which is open forum, and we did think we had somebody, didn't we, Rachel, but we don't seem to, so we'll roll that one into March unless they arrive late, in which case we'll see if we can fit them in today. So we'll move that one. And just as always, if anybody's got any recommendations or knows anybody who'd like to come and address the committee, please share the information with them. So that takes us on to item 8. So our theme for today is looking at climate and sustainability within events, culture and hospitality. So we're going to have 3 people speaking to us in turn on this item. The first one is going to be Claire, and then we'll have Ian, who has just introduced himself from Round Here Festival, and then we'll have Tom Rawson, who's going to be coming from Sustainable Football. So we've got a variety of different people going to talk to us today. I don't know if Rachel Polly wanted to do any introductions, or should we go straight to Claire? Okay, thank you. So Claire, you're very welcome to introduce yourself again for anybody who missed you, and thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, Chair, and hello, everyone. As previously introduced, I'm the Visitor Economy Manager within City Development. As some background context to the service that we offer as a visitor economy team for Leeds, we're proactive on both leisure tourism and business tourism fronts. And at Leeds as a destination, we're thriving and certainly going places. Our latest economic impact model for the visitor economy showed back in 2024 we welcomed over 31 million visitors, and the sector was worth 28.4 million to the city. Business tourism wise, we have a reputation of being one of the UK's leading conference destinations, and meetings and events in the city is a core sector for us. Back in 2024 again, we hosted over 32,000 events, welcomed 2.1 million visitors, and business tourism alone is also worth over £400 million to the economy in Leeds. Post-pandemic, within the visitor economy, the sustainability and regeneration has become a hot topic, and it's certainly something us as a visitor economy team are taking seriously. At a national level, Visit England, the national tourism body, again on a charge to make England one of the most sustainable European tourism destinations in the UK. So at a national level, it's something that's certainly been invested in. I'd like today to present to you some results from our participation in the Global Tourism Destination Sustainability Index, the GDS Index. So bear with me while I share screen and see whether I can get the technology working. Yay! Relief. The Global Destination Sustainability Movement and the index that sits within that is a specific framework that measures and benchmarks the sustainability performance of tourism destinations across the world. It's 10-15 years in existence, and it's become, within the world of visitor economy, it's become a trusted performance improvement programme designed to assess and support the progress of a destination's regenerative tourism journey. Visit Leeds, the leisure tourism brand for the city. We've been participating in this programme for the last 3 years, so a newbie to the movement, and we've been very fortunate to be able to participate with this through a Core Cities project, which has been co-funded through Visit England, the national tourism body. Just in terms of a kind of summary to what the index includes, it's quite a rigorous process. So the actual index itself includes 76 pieces of qualitative and quantitative criteria. It's aligned to the UN sustainability goals, And it's those kind of qualitative and quantitative criteria are kind of aligned into 4 pillars that you can see on the screen there. Environmental performance, which assesses a destination's climate emergency, emissions, water, air quality, transportation are listed there. Second pillar is city's social performance, and that looks at corruption, health and safety, accessibility, resident engagement. The third pillar is supplier performance. So again, within the world of visitor economy, that's looking at hotels, the airport, restaurants, attractions, academia, and it does touch on business tourism with local event business agencies. And then the final pillar is destination management performance, and looks at destination strategy, governance, reporting, certification, capacity building. So it is quite a rigorous index that we try and follow through. Apologies, my screen's skipping through. So I've shared this slide here from our report last year, which was received in October, and I'd like to draw your attention to the chart on the right of the screen, which is our 2025 results. So just in terms of colour coordination, the first pillar here where I'm wiggling my mouse, that is the environmental performance, and we scored just short of 74% on that. The second pillar in the darker blue, again where I'm wiggling my mouse, is the social pillar, and we scored again just short of 66% on that. The light blue, here again where I'm wiggling my mouse, is the supplier element of the index, and we scored 52, just short of 53% on that. And then the destination management side, the DMO in the dark blue here, is what we scored on 38%. Final results on the index for last year was we came out with a score of 56.5 to be precise. Just looking at previous years, so you can see the charts on the left. This one here is showing performance in our participation in the 2023 model, and the chart in the middle is showing our participation in the 2024 model. And there's some feedback here from the GDS index to just reflecting on our performance, and that 2025 was a strong performance year for us. We increased our overall points of 8 points to be recognised. Please don't panic about performance in 2024. There is a shift there, but I would like to highlight to everyone that the index had some significant changes to its criteria in 2024. So there was a lot of introductions of new criteria. So there was, I want to say, a seismic shift in terms of the index in 2024, and there was a drop throughout the index as destinations got familiar with the criteria in the new assessment pieces. On this slide here, apologies, it's a bit small print, but this is the top 40. So with our score of 56.5%, we were ranked 60 in the 60th place in the 2025 index, and this is the top 40 listing. Top 3, number 1 Helsinki, and they had a score of 93.5%. Gothenburg, 91%. And Copenhagen in third place at 88%. They're traditionally, for the 3 years we've participated in the index, that top 3 hasn't changed by any stretch. I want to say those 3 cities have been long-standing members of the index probably since inception. In terms of UK, you can see Glasgow is in number 5, 86%, and obviously Glasgow has a strong reputation with sustainability, and Belfast again in number 9. So Glasgow and Belfast are leading the way. In terms of core cities, Manchester made it into the top 40 for the first year at position 35, and their score was 73%. Bristol was fourth with 63%, and we were just behind Liverpool at 62%. So in terms of UK core cities, we were seventh. When we started cutting the data, we're seventh overall in the largest city in Northern Europe. So again, just a reflection on how we're performing with other similar cities in Northern Europe. And I think, again, you'll see from on the next charts that the cities' environmental and social performance are scoring high, which is great reflection on the work that's been happening. So I've pulled out of the index on the next slide just a couple of graphs just to illustrate how Leeds is performing across Europe, across the England, and across the top three. So bear with me as I gallop through these slides for you. Sorry, before I go there, I must give a nod to most improved leaders. So scores on the doors, and we've got 2 gold stars there that you will see. So in terms of that environmental pillar, you can see Banff in Canada, Quebec, Krakow, where I've been mentioned there. Leeds came second in terms of most improved leaders in terms of that social pillar. So in terms of the most improved, we were recognised as number 2. And on that supplier pillar, we were recognised as one of the most improved positioned as number 10. You can see there Manchester positioned as number 1 as most improved in terms of that destination management, and I'll make some reflection on that later on. So here we go, some more charts. So the colour coding is similar to the first chart that I presented with you. So this is a slide where the GDS index has compared Leeds with cities of a similar size. So again here, this is our performance. The second pillar where my mouse is Valencia. Amsterdam is the third chart along, and Marseille. So again, I think reflecting back on the city's performance in terms of the environmental, which is this pillar here, and the social pillar, again where my mouse is, you can see that Leeds is performing well in terms of the index compared to other European cities of a similar size. Supplier work, very similar to the pillar, is very similar to Marseille, where we were performing against Valencia, and then the dark blue here is the DMO pillar. Next up is some comparisons against some of our core cities, colleagues, and Durham. So here, Manchester, Newcastle and Leeds, we've all participated in the index for the 3 years, receiving the funding from Visit England, and Durham joined the index for the first time back in 2025. So again, you can see the performance here. So apologies, just to clarify, that Manchester is here, and that they were ranked as 35 in the index. Newcastle is the second pillar again where my mouse is, and Leeds is here. And again, it pulls out just how well the city is performing in terms of that environmental and social pillar. We're performing well against Newcastle in terms of the supplier pillar, but we are slightly lagging behind in terms of that destination management performance, which is something I'll move on to into the recommendations. Just to reflect on Manchester, I would like to highlight, and we're not envious whatsoever, but Manchester over the last 12 months have appointed a dedicated sustainability manager for tourism. So they now have dedicated resource within their destination management organisation, very similar to Visit Leeds, and they've developed policies and lots of initiatives through funding that they have access to over there. So from this side of the Pennines, we are looking that way, and would just like to note that that's Manchester's performance. In previous index, Manchester was very similar level pegging against ourselves and the likes of Newcastle. And again, for a bit of inspiration, and we will look at this. So Gothenburg is here where the mouse is. In the middle is Helsinki. And Leeds is here on the right of the screen. So again, I think, to be hitting the top 3 in the index, there's, you can just see how consistent Gothenburg and Helsinki are reaching kind of 90% in all those 4 pillars that the index measures. Again, we're very fortunate to be part of the GDS movement. We can tap into various seminars and resources. We've had group presentations from Helsinki and taken learnings from them and examples of best practice. So another advantage of being part of the index. So just before I move on to recommendations, in terms of our submission for 2025, there was a number of strengths recognised, and we were commended for gaining score improvements across all areas, the 4 pillars. We were commended for climate action increasing across the city and within the organisation at Leeds City Council. When we collate data for the index, it's a definite team leads approach. My colleague Sarah, who leads on the data collection, is reaching out to colleagues across the council, including Rachel, asking for data and evidence, and evidence is the key part. We can't just say we're doing something, we need to evidence it to be able to gain points and scoring on the index. We've been recognised for increased certification, so in that supplier pillar, there's some measurement criteria around how many hotels have been accredited with a national sustainability scheme, how many attractions we have accredited. So we were recognised for increase in certification in the city with a recognised scheme, particularly in serviced accommodation. Our airport performs really well in terms of their accreditation, and the arena also is well performing in terms of their accreditation, as are the academic institutions. Just to touch on the weaknesses, we are lacking within the city that none of our visitor attractions are certified with an accreditation scheme. So within the world of visitor economy, there are a number of sustainability schemes, green tourism being one. Green Key is one that the accommodation sector can become accredited with. So we are lacking certification of visitor attractions in the city. We've also received feedback this time that perhaps us as the destination management organisation, that ourselves should also look at certification. So it's something we are considering. And I think for us and the improvement within that destination management, the destination management pillar, we need to really work over the coming year in terms of a dedicated sustainability policy for the visitor economy, and I think that's certainly letting us down in that pillar. So moving on to some recommendations, and again you can see this, yes, the index is a framework, but on 3 years of participation we've been on, it's a journey, and the index provides us with a framework that helps guide us along the way. Rome wasn't built in the day, so we are slowly chipping away and year on year. So the recommendations are categorised into 4 areas: strategy, communications, capacity building and legacy. So again, this touches on this this strategy. So from GDS, they are recommending that we develop our a dedicated sustainability strategy for tourism and events, and it's something that work has started on. So we're members, we're part of a West Yorkshire local visitor economy partnership, so a sub-regional tourism partnership that has a destination management plan that we're working to deliver. And within that destination management plan for West Yorkshire, sustainability and regenerative tourism is a priority. So we're contributing to a strategy for West Yorkshire, and then an action plan for Leeds will hopefully follow through. You can see there from recommendations from GDS to have objectives and targets across the environmental, social and economic elements, and again, reporting and measurement is important. Capacity building, and this touches on internal and external. So you can see their recommendations in terms of staff training, appraisals. At the last appraisal window, everybody within the visitor economy team now does have an objective around supporting regenerative tourism within the visitor economy for the city. Externally, you can see there the continued growth of certification of your hotels and visitor attractions. And then there's talk of, there's recommendations there around training. And over the last 12 months, we've developed a sustainability newsletter for our tourism partners in the city, and we've made a point of signposting our partners to training opportunities, funding opportunities where they can improve their environmental performance. Communications, and this is an interesting one, and it's how we tell our sustainability story without greenwashing, and how we make sustainability our sustainability messages just part of the natural course within our promotions and messaging. So we're working hard in that, and in our latest Christmas campaign, we developed kind of inclusivity and sustainability messaging as woven through the campaign, rather than it being a standalone section at the end. And work to be done in terms of our storytelling. So we need to shout louder about our journey within the GDS index, and looking at blog opportunities. Something we need to address this coming year. And then legacy. So again, legacy and the impact of tourism on local communities on a destination is certainly not ignored within the index. So we are working with Visit Britain and Visit England. They've developed some fantastic toolkits and resources that we're able to access as destinations and to be able to share with our partners. So through our newsletters, where we're certainly sharing those. We're working with some conference organisers in terms of the environmental impact meetings and events can have on the destination. And that's me. Thank you. I appreciate that was a quick gallop through and a really helicopter view of what we're doing, but the GDX index has been it's been a huge opportunity for us to be involved in that. It has really set and helped us provide our journey on the regenerative tourism work, and fingers crossed it will continue this year. Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to accept questions if anybody's got any, and apologies if I've overrun.
Thank you, Claire. No, that was really interesting. I thought the data was really helpful, so no apologies needed at all. Really good. Thank you. Really useful. Okay, I'm going to open up for questions. So we'll start with Councillor Ronchi, then we'll go to Councillor Stables.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks very much for that, Claire. It's a really interesting presentation. I've got two questions, if I can be allowed to. Thanks. First off, who set the categories here and the data points, and what was the process for sort of deciding what should be measured? I understand we didn't come to this first, so that to some extent it was already established. But can you tell us a bit about who determines what it is that we need to know about the sustainability of our tourism?
Thank you. I don't fully know the detail of how the criteria is established. Obviously, it's closely aligned to the UN sustainability goals. And from our experience over the last 3 years, the GDS movement do work closely with destinations and take feedback on how things are working. Sustainability doesn't stand still. It's continually evolving. And over the last 4 years of our journey, we've moved on from sustainable tourism to regenerative. And the shift in the index back in 2024 was a reflection of how fast the sustainability movement is changing. So I don't know who had the final say on things, but destinations are certainly welcome to contribute and provide feedback into the index.
Thank you. But is it something that we have input into that we can sort of take forward, like for the future? What
yes, yeah,
criteria should be? Right, great, thank you. My second question, if I may, 4 words you used that made me a bit nervous when you said the airport performs well. Now, yes, the new terminal's being built to high environmental standards. Don't dispute that for a moment. But as we know, the big hitter with emissions where air travel's concerned isn't airports, is it? It's aeroplanes. And I'm sure the management of the airport will be the first to tell us that they don't control. I just think progress here is painfully slow in terms of low emission fuel, and still more so for zero emission technology. And we're all expecting air travel to grow before emissions start to fall. So the question really is, how can we promote Leeds as a tourist destination without leaning too much on masses more flying to get here?
Thank you for that question. I don't know where to start with it, but in terms of the index, I can't remember the exact criteria, but there is, it's the performance of the airport building rather than the airlines. And Leeds Bradford Airport does have the relevant nationally, globally recognised assessment criteria for that. In terms of international visitors, yes, there's airlines and people at the moment do tend to fly when they travel internationally, but we're working really closely with LNER on all of our assets. We're promoting the train travel from mainland Europe on the Eurostar. I was at an event meeting some Benelux travel trade buyers last week, and it was Eurostar first before flying. And again, that's part of our kind of storytelling on our regenerative tourism journey. So yes, there's a tendency, there is a preference there around consumers to fly, but I think with the new generation of travellers coming forward, they are considering more sustainable alternatives. So for us, we're looking at promoting train travel alongside the airline connectivity that we have.
Thank you. Councillor Stables.
Thank you very much. And firstly, thank you very much. I'm really pleased that this is something that we are looking at closely and looking at ways to improve sustainability across the whole of tourism, and there's some really encouraging stats there. The destination side is obviously the area that needs improvement. So my big question really was around what is it that Scandinavia in particular are doing that we're not currently doing, and how are we going to address that to get up to, there's a massive difference at the moment when you're looking at how 3 of the Scandinavian cities are doing compared to Leeds, and are we looking at the best practice that they're using and looking at trying to match that to improve?
We certainly are, and apologies, I can't give you any examples of what Helsinki are doing off the top of my head, but it's the index is very much a framework. I think the challenge we have within us as a service is resource and capacity, and we can see what Manchester have achieved with a dedicated person focused on sustainability across leisure and business tourism markets. And again, probably a bit closer to home for me, but if we look at Belfast and Glasgow, Belfast have made significant achievements, and unfortunately it's been through funding on various initiatives. So there's been various programmes available to hotels and attractions to become accredited with those recognised schemes and things like that. So there's examples there of how destinations have completed that.
Thank you. So have you got any specific examples? So looking at Manchester, for example, and clearly that they have improved a lot recently, and you said it's because they've got a sustainability manager in place in tourism. Can you give us any examples of actually what they've done to improve?
Yes, so over the last 12 months they've developed their sustainability strategy for visitor economy. They've worked very closely with Manchester University and have a measurement framework, and it's available for other destinations to take and adapt, but they now have a framework where they can measure their impact. They've signed and committed to the Glasgow Declaration as part of their regenerative journey and things like that.
Sorry, I'm trying to dig down a bit deeper really to get an understanding of what's underneath that, so that we understand, because I know you're talking at a very high level here, but in terms of practicalities, what would that actually look like in terms of destinations doing? What would they actually be doing to achieve this certification? Can you give any examples?
I think with the detail, apologies, I can't. We have all in the slide where we were able to look at Manchester and Newcastle. We can see those, but no detail. I don't get to see Manchester's final scoring sheet. We can see the top line of what Manchester scored in terms of the environmental, social, supplier, and the destination management side, but I have no detail of what their performance is, what their scoring is on the individual criteria.
Sorry, just to finish on that really. So it would be really useful, I think, to get an understanding of the practicalities underneath that. So are you able to come back to us and let us know, what is it that Manchester have done specifically, because they've improved a lot? What have they actually managed to do by destination in order to achieve this? So what are we looking for destinations in Leeds to actually do to deliver this certification? So some actual examples would be really good in terms of what are we asking for destinations to achieve in order to improve our ranking on this?
Happy to take that away, and certainly we can look at that. I'm sure Manchester would help us and collaborate on that. There is within the 76 criteria we can see, and I haven't gone into that detail on the presentation today, but we can see in the results we get a sheet with all the 76 criteria, and we can see where we've dropped points and where we've gained points. So perhaps we can look at that and mirror that against what Manchester have done and see where they're performing better in. Yeah.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Bromley.
Thank you, and I'd like to ask two questions as well, if that's okay. You've sort of answered a little bit of what will be my second, but I'd still like to go in a little bit more. I'm not sure if I missed it, but what is a DMO?
Destination Management. DMO is Destination Management Organisation, so Visit Leeds is the official Destination Management Organisation for the city. So apologies, it's a tourism acronym.
Thank you. So My question's a little bit similar in that to Councillor Stables, in that like sort of trying to find out like tangibly what something is. And I wanted to refer back to one of our big events is Leeds Light Night that pulls in a huge amount of tourism. And I think that looking at the plan and overview and the communication around that, the information that was put out to the public as well, had a huge section to it that was really like dedicated to how they're being sustainable and how it was planned with environment in mind. But then going to the event, attending the event myself, there was then a huge amount of stalls like with vendors selling plastic lights, and I think that one element of it being a really pulled in event that's exciting and engaging for young children is part of an element will be that you get something waving around that's a plastic toy, but also it's an income then for people that are wanting to hold stalls there. So managing and mitigating that, I would like to know how other cities that are performing really well in situations like those kind of events that have traditionally sort of involved things that maybe they're not environmentally friendly, how they've managed to mitigate that change with public perception still favourable, and that not with a huge loss of income, so that you're battling two heads against why the change shouldn't happen. But I appreciate that you're not able to necessarily create that mood board for us of like selections of what we'd like to go for, yeah. But I'd be really interested to come back, if that is possible, to go into that further, just so that we can feel tangible about what it is rather than just necessarily graphs on a screen. And that's part of, for all of us, I think, part of buying into why you'd want to do it and continue with it, and a sense of how that would be real for people. Thank you. That's not really...
No, thank you. Happy to combine that with the action points that I'm going to take away today.
Thank you. Councillor Downs and then Councillor Ray.
Thanks, Chair. We're talking about climate sustainability within events, culture and hospitality. What encompasses that? It says here about sort of Leeds City Council and its partners, but in my ward there are a lot of events that go on. There's things like Otley cycle races. There's also like there's the rugby, there's cricket. I also put on running events myself. I'm about to put my 100th on next month, and I'm not aware that those are sort of, or all of them are encompassed within our assessment. And I just wondered, are we going to be assessing them? How are we going to assess them? Or sort of smaller events not part of it?
No, currently not assessed, but certainly something that we can look at exploring. So the framework that Marketing Manchester have developed with their university might provide a tool that we can start assessing events and setting a benchmark for events across the city. I think that would be a game changer, really, to have a benchmark of all city events meeting a certain standard.
Thanks. Just to follow up, I think that's very welcome, because I see these papers and it's all very well looking at the big events, but I know, for example, the events I put on, people do come from around the world. And one question I was going to ask, what Councillor Ontry asked, is my concern about the influence of the airport on our climate figures, because whilst we've got people coming into Leeds, if they're coming in by plane, there is an element there that which Leeds City Council don't have any real control over, and that does concern me moving forward, that we need, if we're wanting to become carbon neutral, that's to me the big elephant in the room, and we need to be working hopefully with them, but also to understand what's going on in the city at more grassroots level. I mean, there's also the Leeds Marathon, I suspect that will probably come into it, but there will be people coming from all over the country and the world to that event, and they're all welcome, but we need to work out how to make things as sustainable as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ray.
Just maybe a bit naive, but is there any cross-city working where we can all learn from each other and you know, sort of buddy up? Thank you.
I think through the West Yorkshire Local Visitor Economy Partnership, so if anybody's heard the West Yorkshire LVEP as an abbreviation, there's greater collaboration than previously, where we can work with Bradford, Huddersfield, Kirklees Council, Calderdale Council and Wakefield Council. And then I think through the index and just generally at core cities within the tourism group that we have at core cities level, there's great collaboration where we can share best practice. So yes, it's something that we continually have conversations with. For example, the Manchester framework, they shared that with destinations across the UK just before Christmas and gave a presentation on the work that's done there. So yeah, collaboration in the visitor economy is a strength, definitely.
It's a bit of a similar question to Councillor Downs, really. It's what is the definition of a visitor attraction? So, for example, is a cinema classed as a visitor attraction? Or, where does it start and finish? Is a soft play centre a visitor attraction? And then do you have an idea of sort of the number? Because I'm just interested in that sort of 25% target, of what that actually means in sort of an achievement. And one thing which we can talk about outside of here, but we've had 2 students supporting us this year from Leeds University doing the Leeds by Example website. And so as you were talking, I just started to think actually we were thinking about a good project for next September if we attract more students, and they've done 100 hours each, and it's been fantastic, the output. So I think there could be maybe some potential to have a look at some of the specific actions and see how we could work with the university to actually sort of deliver and work. So we maybe need to think about that in the discussions as well.
Thank you, Polly. A visitor attraction is quite a broad spectrum. When it comes to visitors, the definition is doing something outside of their normal routine for more than 3 hours. So the likes of a children's soft play gym isn't classed from a Visit Leeds perspective in terms of being a visitor attraction. So it's a destination that would potentially attract someone of doing something outside of their normal routine for about more than 3 hours. In terms of the question, I don't have a figure of how many attractions we have in the city, but we have over 15 museums and galleries at that kind of hero levels to help with the 25% mark that's recommended.
Thank you. So just before I bring Councillor Stables and Councillor Downs back in, does that mean that somewhere like Lotherton Hall would be, because it isn't somewhere that you go every week, even though there will be people who go every week?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sorry, Councillor Stables again.
Thank you. So actually it links in really well with what Polly just said about students, and it links in with Councillor Downs's point earlier. I'm just wondering whether, given that the issue around the emissions around travel is massive, in terms of flights, whether there could be a student project that actually looks at linking, working with other organisations such as the train companies to make more sustainable, to encourage, promote more sustainable travel for key events such as the Leeds Marathon. So, actually getting some kind of promotion around train journeys for that specific event, which we actively pushed and encouraged to particularly anywhere from the UK. So if you're coming in from anywhere in the UK, it shouldn't be a flight, it should be on the train. So can we actively do some work to link that up so that we are reducing the number of flights and increasing train travel?
Definitely. As a city, we have a really strong relationship with LNER, and we're one of 3 destinations in the North East that are currently offering 25% discount on rail travel to conference delegates. For UK Re, for example, Northern Rail for last year's conference offered a discount, and that was supporting delegates who were staying outside of the Leeds area and travelling into the event to encourage them more onto the rail network than road. And then we're, sorry, I've lost my train of thought, but yes, the challenge and the conversations we have with rail operators is revenue driven, that they do come across as revenue orientated. So when they know there's a demand for travel, their reluctance to offer discounts does come into play. But very fortunate to have the LNER discount, which has just been renewed for 2 years. So conference delegates travelling to the city on the London East Coast Main Line are open to a 25% discount between Edinburgh down to Leeds and London up to Leeds.
So just to come back on that, so just talking, I understand there's already something being done, but I'm talking about having something much bigger than that, and talking about a student project perhaps that links that up with all the key events around Leeds across the country. So not just not just LNER, but looking at all the travel between all the key cities maybe in the UK for something like the marathon, for the big key events that happen in Leeds, if that could be a student project perhaps.
Happy to explore that with policy team.
Thank you. Councillor Downs.
Yeah, just a quickie. Possibly one potential way of getting into some of the events is via the safety advisory group, who you apply to for sort of help, advice, and to put events on. And it may be that the environmental aspect of those events could be picked up either directly or indirectly through them, through their information, or by send out. It's just a thought, might help.
Thank you for that. I'll take that away.
Thank you. Councillor Bromley.
Just to add into this, that with the Leeds Light Night, there was an entire section on their information page about the travel. So they put on a night bus for it, and they also talked about how that you'd get into the city, encouraging train travel. So this must be part of the events that we're looking into so far. I'm assuming that it's part of the scoring that we've already got already. So this is work that's already been looked at. I'm just only in that I don't want to us to confuse things, starting something new based on some work that has already been going on. But it strikes me that there possibly has been, because it was quite significant on Leeds Light Night of what they had done around travel.
I think Leeds Light Night is kind of an example of best practice in terms of their promotion of sustainable travel, and then perhaps that's a model we can work across in terms of other city events. It's not consistent.
Thank you. Councillor Rafiq is next, and then Councillor Rowntree.
Just to recap, you've already touched on this in terms of capturing the data. From the tourists. I know it'll be feedback from people who visit hotels and all that, but are there different methods of actually how data is captured and then fed back into the index? And I think Councillor Stables already touched on the 5 out the top 7 cities or destinations are Scandinavian countries, so it might be worth actually seeing what they do different in terms of getting up there.
In terms of the index, we have to collect and provide the evidence. I can't remember, to give an example, we have to provide it, and it's in the first year it was a challenge, funnily enough, but we had to provide the distance of how much cycleway Leeds had, and we had to be able to evidence that, and so that's an example of one piece of the criteria. So it's an ongoing journey in terms of collecting information and keeping abreast of us as a small team within Leeds City Council. It's an ongoing effort to keep abreast of developments and Housing and Communities and Rachel are an example of the team leads approach, that we can call on colleagues who have specialist knowledge, a broader knowledge than what we do just within visitor economy, to support our submission to the index.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Oh yes, sorry, Councillor Rontry. And I thought I'd lost track because there were some people who've already been in once. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one, Claire. It's triggered by your last exchange with Councillor Stables there, when you're talking about conferencing and conferences, and all right, I think you don't distinguish between people, conference delegates, people coming to Leeds for a conference, and tourists, as in people coming for a city break or a holiday or whatever. That it's all part of the same exercise from your point of view.
Yes, it's all part. Yes, it's all part of the same, but we distinguish between the why people are visiting. So the conference delegates are here for a business purpose or an educational purpose. Leisure visitors are here for recreation.
Yeah, because it occurs to me that there's a different dynamic around business travel, obviously, and who's paying the bills and what people are prepared to spend. That you may have sort of opportunities there to drive down flying to some extent. Certainly flying within the UK, which always makes me pretty uneasy. And the company I used to work for before I was a councillor, there was a lot of flying from the south up to Leeds, which I wasn't keen on having a sustainability brief. But do you think there are levers that you can pull with the business community that may not be appropriate for leisure at the leisure industry?
Yes, so I want to say business tourism and conferences and events is probably the sustainability regenerative journey is probably slightly ahead of the curve compared to the leisure tourism market, and I think that that's coming through from businesses and in-house policies. We are seeing a shift amongst our conference venues within the city in terms of their sustainability policy. In terms of our work proactively bidding for conferences and events, we're seeing a growing increase in sustainability information needs to be included as part of our conference bid. Business tourism is definitely ahead of the curve on the leisure tourism market.
Smashing, thank you. And finally, when we were talking about where it came in with input into what the criteria are and what we're measured on, do you think we can make a case for dealing with flying so that we measure aeroplanes as well as airports? Is that a possibility?
I will take that away and have a conversation with our account manager. I'm seeing her in a couple of weeks for a conversation about our next submission, so I can look at that. Bear with, it may not happen within the next 12 months. I don't know what the pipeline is of having those conversations and how it's assessed and fed back.
Thank you. Have I missed anybody? No. Okay. So just to go through my list, which was quite long and has been slimmed down quite a lot by everybody else's questions, so thank you very much for that. One of them that remains is you referred to Manchester having a sustainability manager. Do you think the fact that they've increased their score through having that person in post is to do with the fact that person is enabling more data collection rather than Manchester actually having done anything differently? I'm just wondering whether, we've got that data out in the city, but maybe not the resources to collect it. So I just wondered, it could be, couldn't it, that either having that person in post has ramped up their action, or having that person in post has enabled more efficient data collection.
I feel the destination, the sustainability manager in Manchester has obviously increased capacity, and that's allowed them to push forward in terms of their strategy and policy. So from previous years, I'd need to check, but I'd be inclined to say that Manchester has improved its score in that destination management pillar quite significantly. I think with the city's performance in terms of the environmental and social perspective, we are on par with Manchester, as that's out of a destination management organisation's control. A lot of the data that goes into that is national data, but I think Manchester will have increased their score through that destination management pillar.
Okay, thank you. Interesting. And then just thinking about, you mentioned, I can't remember a figure for how many of our hotels are certified. I can't remember the measure. Do we have any influence over getting that work done? And then on a similar note, in terms of us, Visit Leeds and our attractions, is work happening to get that certification?
In terms of with the national accreditation schemes, there's a cost element which does deter businesses from participating and engaging with those schemes, and frustratingly, the GDS index only recognises in the criteria those nationally recognised schemes. In terms of bed stock, we're a city that is well populated with chain hotels, and a lot of these national chains, the Hiltons, the Radissons of this world, have their own in-house sustainability schemes, and they're not recognised. So we do encourage hotels to look at national schemes, to have that national recognition, that global recognition, that a green key or a green tourism accreditation will have. With the attractions, again, I think there's a cost element. So obviously the tourism, hospitality, cultural industry, are under financial challenges at this present time. So with costs becoming a challenge, I'm not saying the appetite's not there amongst tourism partners, but the financial ask can be sometimes a challenge, plus the work and the input that's needed to go through the accreditation process.
Thank you. So I think that brings us to the end of that item. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for sharing all that data. Lots of food for thought, really, for us as a city, as well as you say, as a small team. In terms of some of the things that we've said would be worth looking at, thank you for saying that you'll come back with the data. I think was it Councillor Stables and Councillor Bromley, maybe? Somebody asked for some additional information, so thank you for that. Councillor Downs' point about smaller events, I think Councillor Bromley maybe mentioned that as well. I think that's certainly something that we do well at in terms of sustainability, so definitely worth looking at that. And potentially using students to do some of our work for us. That has been something that we have done very successfully. And certainly, I know from links with the university that it's often something that they're crying out for, is finding good quality projects for their students to be involved in. So that could be a real win-win. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your presentation. And we will move on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So our next person who's going to talk to us is Ian Nolan. Ian, thank you for your patience in waiting for us to finish that discussion.
That's okay.
Over to you. You're welcome to introduce yourself and what you do, and then launch straight into what you're going to present to us.
Great. I've got a presentation that I'll be taking you through today. So thanks for the invitation and thank you for listening to me today. I'm the project director from LS Events, which is the delivery company working with AEG on the Round Hay festivals that will take place in summer this year. I'm just waiting to be let into the meeting, and then I can present my my deck. but it's great. I've been reading about the council's climate ambitions for net zero and nature positive city, which are detailed in the Leeds Ambition website, which is fantastic to see such an ambition for the city council. Just 1 second. Yeah, there we go. So there is the beautiful Roundhay Park with the ambition from Leeds Ambition, clearly stated to be the first net zero and nature positive city. And also the Leeds Climate Group detailing their ambition to work together to go further and faster on nature and climate action in Leeds. So that's really great to hear that, and we're looking forward to being a part of that. While I was preparing information for this presentation, there was a talk in Parliament by a group called The Show Must Go On, which were established by the Vision for Sustainable Events. And there was a line that caught my eye on this, which said if we all lived at a festival like Glastonbury or Boomtown, we could cut the carbon footprint of the UK by over 50%. And when one thinks about festivals and events, one often thinks about the dirty waste and the generators and the power that you see. And actually the reality of that is that the carbon footprint of people coming to festivals is much less than it is of day-to-day life. When it's day-to-day life, you put your rubbish in the bin and you don't see where it goes to. At a festival, you put it in a bin and you see the bin trucks driving around and you see the piles of rubbish, which I'll talk to you more about shortly. The other thing is that those generators that are powering those stages are often, if not solar power we can aspire to, then maybe recycled McDonald's chip fat, which is again something that I'll be talking to you about. So our ambition is definitely to have more Glastonbury and Boomtowns and Roundhay Festival, indeed, so that we can help cut the carbon emission of the UK. So AEG, who are AEG? AEG are one of the biggest event promoters in the world. They run a number of different venues, including the O2 in London, and festivals ranging from American Express Presents, BST in Hyde Park, All Points East and Lido Festival in Victoria Park in London, and then the Eden Sessions Gardens in Cornwall. Lido Festival is a new festival, and I'll be talking to you about a bit more about that as a case study shortly. But some of the recent awards that AEG have won include the Lido Festival being highly commended by A Greener Future, which, if you don't know, is an organisation that measures sustainability for festivals and events. They've won Best Festival from the Rolling Stones UK Award, the Sustainability Award at the National Outdoor Event Association, and lots of other awards for BST, All Points East, in their other events and festivals. So Roundhay Festival, and I'm told I have to say that right. It's not Roundhay, it's Roundhay. So I can do my best local there. Roundhay Festival will be coming to Roundhay Park in June, July this year with some of the biggest names in music, and be artist sharing with some of those names from BST in Hyde Park. The event is delivered in partnership with AEG and the City Council. That is the Roundhay Park site that we're using with a red line around it for our footprint this year. I'm sure many of you know the site very well. So in terms of our sustainability ambitions, we've split those into 5 different areas. So power will be 100% HVO usage. So that HVO is the recycled chip fat that we talked about. All of our generators on site will be HVO powered. We will establish a festival baseline for future years to be able to measure against, to be able to year on year improve. And then we have an aspiration to deliver battery usage in some of those areas so that we're not relying on generators, we're relying on battery power and grid power. Our waste will be looking at a minimum of a 40% recycling rate with 100% compostable serveware and prioritising cans, which obviously can be recycled. Food and beverage will be delivering 20% vegan and vegetarian traders, and all our food policies from London shows will be delivered. So that includes low carbon impact, for example, no red meat or limited red meats, seafood, looking at the sustainability aspect of the serviceware and the production and the local sourcing of food where possible. Biodiversity will be undertaking a baseline study with the local authority and working with the Events for Parks team on that biodiversity of the park. And then also prioritising in terms of transportation, a rigorous travel survey to understand how people are coming to our events and supporting the low carbon travel. So we'll talk more about that shortly. I was really interested in hearing the earlier speaker, sorry, I've forgotten your name, but hearing about LNER and, you know, the discount that you offer for that. If that's something that can be extended to our festival attenders as well, that would be great. If there's any opportunities to talk about other partnerships there, we'd be really pleased and happy to talk about that. I love the LNER train. I'm up and down all the time on it. I just dropped this slide in while you were talking, actually, because one of the councillors mentioned about the sort of, you know, the flashing lights at festivals and the you know, the plastic tap that is often seen at events. One thing I want to be really clear about is our ambitions for the festival and all of our partners. So American Express Presents being our headline partner and other partners that are signing up to the project. There is a very strict procedure and policy that we have in place for those sponsor giveaways, which includes everything has to be recyclable in a standard household waste stream. So it can't be, you know, the soft plastics that have to go off to a shop centre to be recycled. It all has to be recyclable at home. It has to be reusable indefinitely and have a minimum of a 12-month lifespan, and then also made from sustainable sources and materials, so such as organic cotton, the recycled polyesters and bamboo and other similar products. We've talked about transport and how impactful transport can be on the event. So I just wanted to let you know that a key part of the planning we're doing is looking at the travel to the event. And there's a traffic and transport subgroup that sits alongside the safety advisory group, looking at how we can best support sustainable travel. We're working with local bus provider First Group to provide shuttle buses from the city centre and prioritising public transport over on-site car parking as a priority for the event as well. And again, through that survey that we'll be doing, we'll be looking at how best we can measure that and improve year on year. So in terms of looking at the Lido Festival, Jim King is the CEO of AEG Presents, and he said, we want to offer the very best in all aspects of events, from our incredible curated artist lineups to delivering world-class standards in sound production and fan experience. This includes setting new standards for sustainability, and Lido Festival definitely did that. Lido Festival takes place in Victoria Park in East London. It's 5 concerts over 2 weekends and it's a 35,000 person capacity. It's a similar size and scale to Round A Park. Headliners were Massive Attack, and through the relationship with Massive Attack, we delivered a 100% battery powered event. There were no generators, no diesel generators, no HVO generators on site for that event. It was all powered by grid power, and that grid power fed those batteries that were then used to power the stages. It's the first time a show of this size and scale has been done by grid power and by battery, and is a really quite an amazing achievement for the team to have delivered that. Those batteries were recharged on site and then moved around the site by electric lorries, so everything was electric. Also, as part of Massive Attack's commitment, it was 100% vegetarian meals across all sites. There was no meat or fish available on site. These are those batteries that I talked about. So Grid Fairies provide the batteries, which is a division of Ecotricity. It's a partnership with Ecotricity. And in the bottom right-hand side of that image are the new, I think it was the first time the lorry had ever been on the road, massive HGV that was a battery-powered HGV. We had 3 principal sources of power. So there was the grid power, the batteries that we've talked about. We then also had hydrogen power, which GeoPura supplied a total of 1,320 kilograms of green hydrogen, which generated 11,924 kilowatt hours of power, which was quite a significant contribution towards the event. We then also had the HVO generators. So after the massive attack gig, HVO generators were used to supplement and support the power requirements. That gives you a graphic of overall power consumption at the event, where you can see that 100% of this power was renewable power sources. So that's wind and sun through the grid, the hydrogen, and then the recycled chip fat for the on-site generators. This is a very technical aspect, but this power that was available within Victoria Park was a total of 315 amps available of power that was reconfigured so that we could connect our generators, our batteries, not our generators, connect our batteries to it. And that was done through what is called power lock connections. It was a very complicated matrix that required project management with the local power provider and the national grid contractors to make sure that that was deliverable and achievable in the timescale. In terms of the waste management, the waste streams that were delivered prioritised the recyclable and compostable waste streams. So we had a can-only approach in front of house areas with no plastic bottles. All food and serviceware was compostable, and then there were clear bin top signage used on those bins. Back of house, so in the sort of production area, we then did hand sorting of that rubbish, where we had a waste baler on site. That baler allowed us to compact all of that waste and reduce the number of journeys that lorries were having to make to off-site recycling centres, because we could compact the waste and pack more into the transport that we had. That received a higher recovery rate of the recycling as well. The third part of it was then working with our bar and trader providers to ensure that there was a priority over aluminium cans and that there was no plastic, as already mentioned. That allowed us to look at a total of 24 tons of waste being produced, of which 21.5 tons was sent off for recycling, with just 2.58 tons being sent to general waste, which was then burnt for energy production. That's just over 10% of the total waste that was a general waste avenue. The second part of that initiative is our eco food label scheme. So this is where we give food a red, amber, green labeling, and we'll be deploying this to Roundhay Park as well. So food is identified as red, high impact, amber, medium impact, and green, low impact. So there will be burger stalls, there will be beef burger stalls, but there will also be venison burger stalls, which are a more sustainable option. And then there will be vegetarian burger stalls, which again will be a green impact because it is the least impactful of those three. They will be rated on a scale of A to E, and that is all prioritized during our selection process so that we can work with those traders to understand. And as mentioned, there'll be 20% of those traders being vegetarian or vegan for Roundhay as well. We'll have Lido, there were Every Cow Counts. So there was an education scheme that was activated as well, where we had teams, working with the public to make sure they understood the waste revenue streams, and that they were using the right bins. Separate to that, there was then 240 kilograms of food collected by local City Harvest, which is a food waste project, to reuse that food waste so that any food left from traders at the end of the day was donated to food waste projects and redistributed to community projects. Again, we're working with the City Council's events and parks team to identify food charity partners that we can work with on Roundhay Festival. So some statistics there: zero waste going to landfill. We send all of the soft plastics off to be recycled and turned into furniture. There were 4 days of the free festival at Lido, which were in between the 2 weekends. 85% of the traders offered vegan meal options. The serviceware was entirely compostable, and some other great statistics there. It really is the flagship for us of green events and how you can deliver sustainable events. 89.3% as a recycling rate, 100% as a renewable energy rate, no single-use plastics, and 570 meals delivered to local community groups. So I guess when one comes and talks to groups like this, there's always an ask, and why am I here? What is the ask from me? So I guess what I would say is that we would love some support with engaging with Northern Power to get the power on site at Round A upgraded. We anticipate a total requirement of 2,000 kilovolt amps. At the moment, there is 215 kilovolt amps. So we aspire, to have the entire festival powered by grid power and sustainable power. That is our aspiration for it. And there is a substation on site at Round A, which needs increasing. And it would be great if there was anybody that knew a senior member of staff at Northern Power that you could introduce us to, because it would really help progress that conversation. The existing supply powers the restaurant, the Lakeside Cafe, the Boathouse, the Cricket Pavilion, and some other small event power boxes. But really, to get to the size and scale that we need to increase that capacity, certainly for the long-term sustainable ambitions that we have. That's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Round A and what we're aspiring to deliver. So I'm really happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely fascinating. I'm scribbling notes furiously. Who would like to start with questions? Councillor Stables first. Do you want to? I was just about to say, do you want to turn your mic off? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting. Just looking at, I was interested looking at the split, the breakdown of your production of power that's going to be used on site, and interested in the recycled chip fat, in that you have it under sort of a green source, a sustainable source, because it's clearly recycled, but how much pollution will it generate?
That is a very good question about the carbon production of that, and I can definitely share statistics with you. I'm not the expert on the carbon production of that chip fat. I know that there is a significant reduction in the amount of carbon generated by that, but I don't have that figure to hand to be able to give you. What we do is use, as you say, the recycled chip fat. It's a good analogy to get people to think about what it actually is, and we use that across tower lights that are within car parks or out in outer areas as well. And then where generators are used on site as well, they're also those recycled chip fats. So yes, it is a recycled product, and it is a second life for that product that would normally otherwise be disposed of. So that's how it's classified as a green product.
Sorry, what I meant was when it's being used in the generators on site, I'm referring to the pollution that it will cause on site in the generators, particularly in the inner areas where you've got a high concentration, high density of people. I'm just concerned about the health implications of that.
Yeah, I understand. I can come back to you with that. As I say, it is a significant reduction to what a normal diesel generator would be. So if it were, an oil source rather than chip fat oil source, and it's obviously refined. It's not straight from McDonald's straight into our generators. There is a refining process involved in that. But I can come back to you with the statistics for sure.
Thank you. Anybody else with questions for Ian? Councillor Rowntree.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for that, Ian. That's really positive. I like the ambitions that you've set out there and the milestones that you're hoping to achieve. I do want to ask, though, the 20% veg or vegan food, does that mean 20% of menu items rather than 20% of the food?
In total, across the site, 20% of the food offer will be vegetarian or vegan. vegetarian or vegan stalls, but then there will also be some stalls that offer a meat product but also offer vegetarian products as well. Yeah.
So I'm being confused. Is the 20%, is that a number of stalls then? 20% of stalls?
Not of stalls, no. Of total food lines available across the site will be vegetarian or vegan.
Oh, I think I get it. So that if you count up, you have a menu for all the stalls there, and you count up the number of items on all the menus, 20% of them will be vegan or vegetarian. Gotcha, thanks. That's the one thing that struck me, actually, that didn't sound overly ambitious, especially if you could hit 100% when you've got massive attack breathing down your neck.
It's a good point. Yeah, I think what we are looking for in year one of Round A is baseline establishments. What I can also say is the audience perception of that is important, and we need to look at servicing the audience that we have coming along to the events. Some of our audience want to eat meat and want to eat fish-based product as well. So we are mindful of that, and we will monitor that, and we are in year one setting baselines.
Okay, thank you. I was pleased to see the emphasis on hydrogen as a fuel, actually. I tend to think that's something that doesn't get talked about often enough. What are the intended uses? Is it just for large vehicles, or would there be other applications as well?
So with hydrogen, we do not currently plan on using hydrogen in Round A for year one. Hydrogen requires large flat spaces, and I'm sure you will know Round A is not well known for being flat. So in year one, we will be prioritising battery and HVO fuels. Where we've delivered hydrogen power in the past, it has been in replacement of generators. So they're called hydrogen farms, and the hydrogen comes in lorries, and then there is a processing aspect to that is done on site, and that supplies power in the same way that a generator would supply power.
Okay, thanks. And lastly from me, I did like the reference to every count counts, because I know from experience that getting people to put things in bin A or bin B, it's not straightforward, and it's often not obvious even to people who are well informed about which bin should be used. So I think it's really good to see an emphasis on the education there. But yeah, thanks very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Harrington.
Yeah, it's just a point to note, really. I am in the outer area where we do have another large festival takes place every year, and I co-chair a working group because we have a lot of parishes in our area who are in sort of, there may well be some disruption to their local area. So I'm just wondering what input you're going to have from ward members, because Roundhay isn't necessarily parished, but it's the ward members that you need to look at there, and what input are they going to have, because they're the ones that understand the local situation with how residents are going to be disrupted. What are the travel plans, to have some input into that at the really early stages will save you an awful lot of headaches later on. Just a point to note, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. We've held, and I'm aware this is a kind of climate emergency group, but I'm very happy to talk about our sort of planning for the development of the event as well. We've had a residents engagement event already that local ward councillors have been briefed on before that residents engagement event. We've sent out in the region of 1,000 letters to those residents that are in the most impacted area by the event in the surrounding area. We have our second resident event that will be taking place in the coming weeks, in the next month certainly. I have had 3 meetings now with ward councillors so that they can be involved and engaged in those discussions, and we're absolutely listening to them. I apologise, but I forget their names, who are those ward councillors. We are also, on their recommendation, going to the farmers markets and speaking with the climate action group locally, and speaking with the Friends of Roundhay Park and the rowing club and the cricket club and the other various groups. We've also, last week I was speaking at Leeds Beckett University to 200 of their event management students, and we're offering opportunities. And I think it's important because sustainability is not just about the environment, it's about development and long-term sustainability of events. And we are providing opportunities for those students to come along and work at the events and have placements at the event. And we are talking about how we can work with the students so that they have modules that might be based around the event, that we can provide a real life experience for those students as well. So absolutely, we are here and we want to be part of the community, and we want to hear from people, and we're very open to listen to any of those concerns.
Thank you. It was a point to note, and I'm sure that anybody who's actually watching online or watches it after the event they'll be pleased to hear that you've had that interaction with the local community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shazad.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points. First of all, you said you're going to try and limit the car parking, but how much car parking are you actually going to allow? Because most of these festivals, like Councillor Harrington has mentioned, you get lots of car parking at these big festivals, because obviously that's the attraction. People come over sometimes for camping, and it depends how long they decide to stay. Also, like currently we've had this wet weather in Leeds and the rest of the UK. What are you going to do regards the actual, depending on where your event's going to take place on the fields, the actual biodiversity for the insects, the noise pollution, the trees and everything else, and especially with this number of people, health and safety is a major issue, and it's happened before at the Bramham Park Festival, where people have obviously, with the amount of rain, it's actually destroyed. I mean, luckily that does not get used much for any of the events or anything like that, but the park is something that is a city park which gets used by lots of visitors, and I could only imagine if the situation is as it is currently, what state it would be left in. So what are you actually doing to make sure that the biodiversity is protected, insects are protected, and the car parking is actually not causing congestion and problems?
Thank you. In terms of the biodiversity of the park, we're in discussion with the park management team about the diversity of the park and about the best approach to managing that. From a practical point of view, there will be ground protection, there will be environmental protection measures that we put in place, and that is part of our event management plan and our considerations. We have wet weather plans as well, so if, and heaven forbid, the rain does stop, and it has today, which is great, but if the rain is very bad in advance of the event, then there are contingencies that we will be deploying to the event. That's part of our standard planning for that and our health and safety considerations. In terms of the car parking aspect, when we talk about prioritising public transport, we are looking at the impact of vehicles driving into a small area. So by using other car parks and other transport hubs around the city, and then prioritising buses and shuttles, as you know, the trains and other buses and shuttles, we will be looking at how best we can make it attractive for people to use those shuttle buses, and less attractive to be driving to the event. But we have to accept some people will drive to the event, and of course there is a robust plan for that, and we have capacity for in the region of 10,000 cars, which is absolutely more than ample for the number of people that will be attending the event.
I'm just going to bring Polly in, and then I'll come back to you.
One thing I just wanted to make absolutely clear is there is no camping with this event, so unlike Leeds Fest, just so people are aware.
So just a quick one, do you have a travel plan for the exit and entry, and how it's going to work? Because obviously if you have added congestion for the residents as well, that will obviously add to the pollution in the air. So as much as we don't want that happening, so have you got a plan for that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a detailed transport management plan, and there is a traffic and transport subgroup of the safety advisory group that we are working with. And as part of our event management plan, there is a transportation plan and an ingress and egress management plan that clearly details the projected capacities for that. Yes, we do.
Thank you. Councillor Ray.
Do you guys have a contact at Northern Power Grid? Because I'm working with them on a different project, so I can try and do some digging if you'd like.
Yeah, all contacts gratefully received. Thanks.
I'll email.
Thank you. Anybody else wanting to come in? Okay, so I've got a few of mine left then, if that's okay, Ian. So, first one, the ambition of an event aiming to be 100% solar battery. How achievable do you think that is for a big event over several days?
I think we should have big ambitions because the climate emergency is real, and it is something that we know we need to be looking at. I think long term, we're talking, if we are not aiming for the sky, then, we have a problem. We have delivered a 100% sustainable grid powered through solar and wind already. That has been achieved last year. So essentially, this is just more days of that. The infrastructure is the thing to be able to support that, and to be able to have those big ambitions, we need the big investment in that infrastructure, so that that can align with our ambitions, I think.
Thank you. I'm going to 100% agree with you that ought to be the ambition for every festival, shouldn't it, really? Okay, so my next one was about travel. When you buy tickets for an event, generally nowadays that involves you giving them your email address, doesn't it? And then you're bombarded in the weeks coming up to the event with lots of information. Will you use that opportunity to be pushing the shuttle buses and using that as part of your travel plan?
Yes, absolutely. There is ongoing discussions at the moment about how we best promote the sustainable travel options and how we prioritise those. One of our travel partners, Big Green Coaches, who come from regional areas and they're well established. So at the start I spoke about the Show Must Go On and the sustainable events group. Big Green Coaches are part of that and have won awards for their delivery of battery powered coaches to festivals. So there is good work done there. I'm not sure I would use the word bombard in advance of the event, but there is a proportionate and appropriate number of emails sent to encourage people to the appropriate destination to ensure that they're informed. And it is a real, consideration for us to ensure that we're sharing the right information so that people can go to the right entrance of the event and all that sort of stuff. That will be shared in advance, yes.
Thank you. I didn't mean that as a negative kind of bombard. I always find it's part of the excitement as you're getting closer. It's like, oh, another one. Right, okay. Right, my next one is about waste management. So you gave some great examples of the work at Victoria Park. So is your waste management strategy going to be the same? And does that include every can counts? And then on a similar vein, at the end of a festival, at the kind of the front of the stage, you're wading through all kinds of bits of rubbish, aren't you? So what happens to that after the event?
Yes, so in terms of the waste management, we're developing that waste management plan at the moment with our contractors. There is always a mass of waste at events, and actually often it is better that it's dropped on the floor so that the professionals can pick it up and put it in the right bag for post-event recycling. We will be having recycling sorting in a back of house area, yes. In terms of the sort of operations on site, that's very much being worked out at the moment, but we will be prioritising cans over sort of poured draft drinks as well, which is a definite help and a way that we can increase recycling for sure.
Thank you. And I think that's probably me done. I was looking at potentially a question about the connection to Northern Power, but thank you to Councillor Ray for coming in on that. That's certainly something that I think as a committee we will be really keen to support, and any work that we can do to help with that, then we will most certainly look into that. So we'll look on working on that one. Okay, anybody else? Thank you very much then. It's been really informative. Thank you for your time, and look forward to all the work you're going to do. Super.
Thanks. I have to run off to another meeting if that's okay, so I will leave you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Okay. So that brings us to Tom, if you want to start by introducing yourself, because most of us don't know who you are or where you're from or what you'd like to talk about. So if you'd like to do that first, and then please start your session.
Yes, thank you very much. Am I all set up on the microphone? Yep. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Tom Rawson. I'm here representing Leeds United Football Club today. I am the founder of Sustainable Football, and I work as an independent, freelance consultant in the sustainability and football quite niche crossover space. I've been doing that for the last 5 or 6 years. Before that, had a longer background in sustainability in the infrastructure and transport spaces, and most recently was working in rail. But yeah, despite always being a football fan, I was going to say who I support them, but maybe I won't, given where we are. I had never put the two together and thought about the opportunities there, but that's partly what I want to bring to the discussion today, just to kind of introduce that topic. I currently work for the last 3 or 4 years. I've been working with Wolverhampton Wanderers, leading their sustainability program. So that's obviously reasonably well established now, so I'll share some of the details of what that looks like. And my work with Leeds has really just got started this season, so it's very much in the early stages, and we're working towards an imminent launch of a campaign. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but mainly use Wolves as the model for what to expect from what that project will look like. So just to introduce this, the football and sustainability space as a topic. So the interrelationship between football and sustainability. So first of all, and what might come to mind first is the climate and carbon impact of football. So clearly, match day operations, fan travel, player travel, waste, energy, materials, kit, food, all of these things have that are associated with football, whether it be tournaments, match days, general club logistics. Clearly there's a big carbon impact there. It's estimated that the football industry has a carbon impact around the size of Denmark as a nation, so really significant globally. There is a different version of that, though, swapping that dynamic and to look at the ways in which the climate impacts football. So football is a really interesting way to bring to life the potential climate futures and the impact that a changing climate will have, because it makes it very tangible in terms of playability. So grassroots pitches being waterlogged and matches being cancelled, extreme heat affecting even the elite game in terms of international tournaments being postponed or matches being played in different stadiums or different cities than they were planned to be because of extreme heat becoming reaching unsafe levels. So football has an impact. It's also vulnerable to climate change, so there's a really interesting dynamic to explore there. But maybe the most important thing to way to position football and climate is the potential that football has as a messenger and as a platform to reach people. Clearly people have a deep emotional connection to football, their clubs, whether they be playing or watching. They look up to footballers in the men's and women's game as leaders and role models. And football clubs are very place-based as well. They're one of the best examples, I think, of place-based institutions, because people have a real strong connection to them, and they are, in elite football, they are global brands, very clearly linked to one specific place or location. So I think that's a really important angle to understand as to the potential role that football can have in engaging and inspiring climate action. With that, I will now start sharing the latest environment. I am talking about environmental sustainability in this context. I'm going to share the latest environmental sustainability report from Wolves, which kind of outlines the work. I guess it puts in context the sort of thing that this work involves, and highlights the achievements and stories and case studies from. It looks back at 2025. So this was published just at the very end of January. So it's only, a very recent publication. So the Wolves sustainability campaign is called One Pack, One Planet. That kind of plays on the the culture and the connection of and the identity of the club. One Pack, obviously the Wolf Pack. It represents everybody being in it together, the team, that everybody's got a role to play. One Pack, One Planet associates that collective, need for collective action to a sustainability and environmental message. That kind of campaign headline is underpinned by 4 headline commitments, which are on climate, which is working towards becoming a net zero football club by 2040 and adapting to a changing climate. And then headline commitments also on waste, circular economy and reuse, nature, and the natural environment, and then culture. So this is about embedding sustainability both within the club and into the external communications of the club and fan engagement. To give a sense of some of the sort of key headline achievements from 2025, so we're reporting energy and fuel emissions down by 72%, partly down to the 100% renewable electricity supply to Wolves. All waste is either recycled or sent for energy recovery. Across the season, Wolves launched free bus travel and cycle hire initiatives for fans. We invested in climate offsetting projects, which offset about 35% of the club's total carbon footprint, including Scope 3, generating around £500,000 of social and economic value. We have reusable matchday cups in place, and there's a small donation for each one used. So that raised £5,000 for Wolf Foundation, the official charity of the club. We published our report on an annual basis, including last year, and we host a dedicated fixture. So one match day for the season is dedicated to One Pack, One Planet sustainability messaging. The club and the foundation are involved in a European initiative called the Clean Air Champions League, which involves installing air quality monitors at the stadium and in the local community, and then using that as a basis for monitoring and also engaging the community on the importance of clean air. And yeah, the club is sort of recognised across the year by the Premier League, BBC Sport, and the British Association for Sustainable Sport for some of the initiatives that we've put in place. That's kind of, yeah, just to kind of give an impression of what it means for what environmental sustainability means for Wolves, but a football club, really. We use player champions to help to promote messaging, and Merrick Will, who's the kind of main featured player there, is particularly engaged, and she's actually been through a dedicated education, like climate-focused education and development program designed for players, with a wider cohort of professional players from international cohort across the men's and women's game. So playing a really key role in terms of like being again, being a role model. Carbon footprint of the club. So we've got a good understanding of what the carbon footprint is. Fan travel accounts for almost 70%, which really highlights the need to engage fans on this, but also to work with local transport providers and local authorities, again working in that very like place-based way to understand it as a holistic issue, not an issue that the club itself can solve on its own, but can only do so working with partners locally. We have a good understanding of the fan travel, which informs both the carbon footprint and the initiatives that we're able to try and introduce to incentivize and provide better options for more sustainable travel. But driving to home games, at least driving to the stadium, is quite significantly the most used travel mode at the moment. We and I, when presenting, very often get asked about it's not so much the carbon impact, because when you look at the carbon footprint, men's first team travel is a very small portion of that, like less than 1%, but it's the I think symbolic impact of what it means to see the first team using potentially chartered flights to. There's quite often media scrutiny about football teams using chartered flights to travel distances you could probably get to in a couple of hours on road or train. So we, in discussion with our fan focus group, we're encouraged to at least be transparent, so that the media and supporters have a good understanding of how the team are getting to different locations and how that decision is made. So the club do use trains to London and use coaches typically, but then also we're just being transparent here about the number of flights and chartered flights that are used, and that kind of varies sometimes, depending on how cup fixtures, where they are located, and whether there's any international football in terms of European competitions or pre-season friendlies. But we're one of the only clubs to actually share this information publicly. I mentioned our carbon offsetting program. So 37%, including scope 3 of our footprint. So this is done through a mechanism that uses currency exchange rates based on international transfer payments to generate a value that can then be used for carbon offsets. So it's a really innovative mechanism that actually could be really significant football-wide if that's adopted. I mentioned adaptation and resilience earlier. This is something that the Premier League's sustainability strategy references, and we've therefore added it to our priorities as of this year. There's an interesting case study that in August 2022, football was played at Wolves under an amber extreme heat warning, and that led the operational teams to introduce new heat stress protocols that hadn't been done before. So that included things like extra water provision for fans and provision of guidance for stewards to ensure safety in those extreme conditions. But it's an example of how a changing climate will start to impact football operationally in terms of health and safety of spectators, players, and officials. They work with partners in terms of minimizing our waste, particularly around the catering side of things in the concourses. The grounds team have a really strong focus on nature and managing the training ground in particular, given its location and sort of landscape, for the benefit of wildlife as well as elite football. Yeah, just bringing to life what the focus fixture looked like last year. A little around communication. So this is the outward facing kind of view on things, not only how we're meeting various reporting requirements linked to the ownership of the club and the league requirements and government requirements, but also voluntarily participating in opportunities to share learnings, use our influence across the world, use the profile of the players to support climate causes. This is a kind of reflection of how the program is structured internally. I think the main thing to say here is that I chair and convene the club's sustainability working group, but it's very, very much a recognition that every department across the club has a role to play, and that's, I think, part of the value in creating this overall campaign program. Like identity for sustainability at the club is that then the activity that every different department is doing, it all links back to a common set of targets and commitments and a common collective goal. But that's what that means for the media team compared to the retail team, compared to the people team, the grounds team, the commercial team. It means something very different. But this gives it that kind of overall alignment in terms of what the ultimate aims are. A few more case studies here in terms of how we work with partners to deliver sustainable operations, and so that is a summary of what the Wolves program, as I say, looked like last year, and hopefully that gives a sort of impression of what the Leeds program will begin to look like over the coming years. And we're anticipating a launch of that next month, in line with the National Green Football campaign, which runs from the 9th to the 22nd of March. The club will be beginning to tell a sort of holistic story of what sustainability means for us and what we're doing. So just moving on from that, just a quick flip over to a slightly different angle, which is another organisation that I'm involved with, which is a football climate non-profit focused on education and climate communications called Football for Future. We're in World Cup year, so this campaign is all about using climate risk analysis to bring to attention how climate change is threatening football. And the way that it does that is start to define climate thresholds. So when does the climate become so extreme that football can't be played? And it completes that analysis for all of the World Cup host stadiums across North America, but then also identifies a number of World Cup legends. So these are players from across the world, different parts of the world, that then completing the same sort of climate risk analysis allows you to tell global climate risk and climate impact stories through a lens which is relevant to a global audience, because it's looking at the grassroots pitches that these World Cup legends learned to play the game. So effectively framing climate change as a risk to the to World Cup legends of the future. So yeah, I just think another kind of useful way of framing football and climate change to highlight, and with full future of doing further work now around the World Cup to bring this to life even more, and with various other clubs to bring these sorts of stories to life for the clubs and the fans. So I'll stop sharing now, but hopefully that gives a bit of an introduction into the work I do, and really, I think, want to use this opportunity or you know, this platform just to say that as I continue to work with Leeds United as a club, I really want to be open to opportunities to work in a you know, with the city more widely and aligned to the work and campaigns that are happening, and really invite that collaboration as well. So any opportunities that the club can be involved with, whether that's sort of operational, a more operational side, or a more kind of engagement and using the club's platform to reach, you know, the community. Yeah, very open to those sorts of collaboration opportunities.
Thank you very much. Another really interesting presentation. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for taking the time to come. Questions for Tom? We'll start with Councillor Bromley, Councillor Stables.
Thank you, Tom. Sorry.
I think he's just done it.
Thank you, Tom. That was really interesting, and yeah, really positive to hear Leeds United have sort of taken up this opportunity with yourself, really, and bringing about the point about role models, and actually like a bit of glitz and glam to the subject heading that is often gets a bit of a sort of a scaremonger reputation to it, rather than this is a positive work and this is actually something that can be championed. I wondered a couple of questions really. In terms of, you mentioned the climate offsetting projects, would that be for the local community or the city as a whole, or something on the actual grounds of the stadium?
That offsetting was really purchasing gold standard carbon credits that were used for projects internationally. So what we proved through Wolves last year was a mechanism for raising funds to invest in those sorts of carbon offset projects. Certainly, I think how that approach would evolve is rather than using that funding to invest in ultimately quite anonymous, you know, gold standard, so they've got a good level of robustness, although carbon credits are prone to some level of criticism. Rather than using that funding to invest in those more anonymous sort of credits that, you know, are used to fund a project somewhere in the world doing something, there is a way to be more intentional about what that funding is used for. So certainly local community impact projects would be a really good example of that. So that creates such a better narrative than just using them to invest in credits. I think also the opportunity that football has, again, is because there are so many global links in terms of the home cities, the home countries of players, for example, and the identity of the club. So Wolves would be an ideal example that you might be intentional about investing in projects that benefit wolf habitats, because there's a really logical narrative to why that makes sense. So I think that that's the opportunity. As I say, what we did last year was prove a mechanism for how those funds could be raised. How we evolve that is to be more intentional about how we use them to create a compelling narrative.
Thank you. Yes, and I can appreciate that. Like, climate change itself is going to impact third world countries far more than in the country that we live in. So I really appreciate that. I also know that the stadium is in a ward of deprivation, and I think that also local community are often people from working class paying a high amount for tickets, and I think that then if they have a tangible thing that can be seen within the community for understanding why the club is making these decisions as well, I think that would be really helpful in terms of perception. In terms of the cycle hire, I know that we do have a citywide or even West Yorkshire wide project. I forget what it's called. That's it, Beryl Bikes. Is it linking into what the local authority is already engaging in, or bringing in something separate with the stadium? And I noticed that you did say collaboration, but if there was something where there was maybe a lack of funding that the local authority had, would it be something that the stadium would then step in to support financially, or is it simply about communication? How would the engagement work?
Yeah, I think that'll be on a case by case basis, but I think the fundamental thing of aligning with the existing transport authority and transport options and systems that are in place is definitely an important one. So the initiatives that Wolves put forward were in collaboration with Transport for West Midlands. They were drawing upon existing government funding for bus use incentivization and cycling incentivization, and directing those to either ticket holders or season ticket holders, depending on which one we're talking about, and therefore sort of directing this campaign towards the fans and using the club as a almost as a reason to get involved and to try that, and basically try to encourage a different decision to be made around match day travel.
Finished. Super. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Stables is next.
Thank you. A really interesting project. So my first question was very similar, actually, in terms of about transport, and it was around understanding. I don't know what exists at the moment in terms of transport. For example, obviously a lot of fans will come into Leeds City Station, and if there is, is there a direct route at the moment? Is there a bus route that could then, are there coaches that can be paid for example, from Leeds City Council to pick up people from areas where they're currently travelling by car? So presumably that's all sort of the work that you do. So it's a bit of a question around how you get the information in terms of how you improve the transport modes that are used. I wanted just to ask, I'll ask you the questions and perhaps do you want me to ask one at a time? I've got 3 questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The other one was about, are you just starting everything in March, or have you already got a base position to move forward from? Do you know any base stats in terms of where they're currently at? And the third question was around, you mentioned about pitches in peril and you had some examples up there. They all looked like they were in countries around the world? I didn't see anything for the UK. Is there some work done on looking at impact in the UK?
Great. Yep. In terms of travel options, so there are, I don't know the exact funding mechanism for these things at the moment, but there are existing bus routes, like normal bus routes that link the city and the stadium. There is a match day specific shuttle bus that's in place. The club organises coach travel for away games, so there are a number of things in place. What we would ideally need to do is some sort of fan travel survey to understand what behaviours are like our understanding that we have for Wolves, to understand what initiatives would be most beneficial or are seen as most needed, or what are the reasons for not using public transport currently or sustainable transport currently. And then would be very it would be most impactful if we could work with the local authorities and local transport providers to look at what options might be to address that. So that's definitely a conversation, and share that data and understanding. That's definitely a conversation that I would hope to have. Current understanding of where the club is at. So clearly, even without a sort of named sustainability campaign, there is a lot of great work going on at the club across different departments. So the catering team have a really great focus on sourcing local, using local suppliers. Clearly, the operations and facilities team are already doing a lot of work in terms of energy efficiency, and some of that is even compliance driven. So there's lots of baseline stuff going on. The Leeds United Foundation have done a significant amount of engagement and participation with Green Football Weekend and the campaigns in previous years, and done some great player focused content as well. So there are already those player ambassadors have already been used in that way. So there's already a lot of activity, and there's a good baseline for telling the story. This is, how we're positioning that is building upon that and giving it even more strategic alignment and prioritization within the club. And as we launch the kind of strategic direction next month, that will be followed by some various content about where the club is already at and some of the great stories that the club can already tell. Alongside that, we will be completing a carbon footprint exercise before the end of the season, which is actually a Premier League recommendation that all the clubs are doing that, and there's Premier League support with that as well. So we'll have a good understanding of the carbon footprint of the club to be able to again address that in the right way. Pitches in Peril is really framed around the upcoming World Cup. So the stadium locations that the risk analysis is done on are all the host stadiums in the USA, Canada, and Mexico. There are at least one, maybe two legends pitches that are in the UK. So David Beckham is one of the players that's the climate risks to his grassroots pitch is highlighted in the report. There are, I guess it's worth saying the Pitches in Peril is somewhat inspired by a report that was published around 2019 called Playing Against the Clock, which highlights the statistic that it looks at all of the professional men's stadiums across England, I think it is specifically, and it highlights that by 2050, 25% of those stadiums will be prone to full, partial or full flooding annually. So again, as a way of framing how climate change will affect the UK in tangible ways that are meaningful and imaginable to an audience. There's a really powerful message there. So that there is work that's done around how climate is affecting the UK, and we're involved in a wider campaign called Defend Where Football Lives, which again is includes a UK focused element in terms of highlighting that message of climate vulnerability.
Sorry, just one further question that's just highlighted. Are you also, I mean, you haven't mentioned this, but in terms of the Pitches in Peril, are you also doing any work or research around sustainability of artificial pitches?
Not personally, but there's or not personally and not directly, but there is Sport England are leading a significant piece of work on the sustainability impact of artificial pitches, and particularly around the rubber crumb and a solution to replacing that, which is a major cause of microplastic pollution.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Anderson.
Have you, when you've been working either with Wolves or with Leeds, approached the players to talk about how they are going to change their habits, because they get paid quite a bit of money? They use cars as a status symbol to get to and from. Back in the 50s and 60s, I've no doubt Leeds would probably, the players would use the bus to get to and from the football. But nowadays, I couldn't honestly see some of the top stars jumping on the number one and coming along. So have you had conversations with them like that? Because if you take Leeds as an example, getting to Wetherby, there's no public transport to get to Wetherby, so you either have to go for car sharing, enforcing car sharing, or how are you going to deal with things like that? Because that's where you're going to find the fans can do their bit, the club can do their bit to get the fans to and from, but the players, if they're still driving around in nice vehicles, you're going to do a lot of damage to your thing. Have you tried to address that yet or not?
Yeah, I think I agree. So the players have a really significant platform as role models to demonstrate the right behaviours and sustainable behaviours. I think engaging players is, there's a few important things to consider, but one of them is the ensuring that they're being genuine in their messaging, and we're not forcing them to promote a message that they will be criticised for not living. There are some players that are very conscious of their environmental impact and their wider social impact, and it's important that we ensure that we're using those players who are really genuinely invested in those to give a to be the voices on this. But I think equally a lot of players are put off from using their voices to communicate about social issues and climate change because of the potential backlash that they might get when doing something that sometimes has been organised for them, or is just a inevitable consequence of the high profile they have and their position. So I think there is a balance between using the right players and ensuring that they're confident and genuine in communicating their message, and then ensuring that trying to find ways that will be that will go down in the right way and isn't seen to be telling someone to do something that they're not doing themselves.
I don't disagree with what you've just said, but for example, would you look at sponsorship deals being only using electric vehicles? So you're saying to the players, you can have as many cars as you like, but they need to be electric vehicles. So actually setting a standard from that stage, so they can still drive around, they can still, because some of these cars you can still get quite a bit of speed up on them, so they can still look very good as well. So have you thought about, well, not you personally, tried to persuade the clubs to take sponsorship deals with major manufacturers of electric vehicles?
I think that's a huge opportunity to it's an example of the different roles that different departments of a club have to play in sustainability. And the commercial department, there's big potential opportunity, in line with their existing priorities in terms of their commercial targets, in finding new partnerships, and partnerships that promote sustainability and promote the right behaviours. I think, again, there's different levers to take and different ways to influence these sorts of things. A significant part of the role that Football for Future take is to provide these education pathways for players, which I mentioned. Merrick Will, who's an ambassador for Wolves, has been part of. But also educating the academy players so that these ideas are, share these education opportunities there from early on. So Football Future also the official climate workshops provider for the Premier League's Academy Life Skills program. So again, there are opportunities to, it might not be about putting restrictions on players or telling players what to do, but it might be more about finding ways to educate them and raise their awareness and help build their confidence in talking about these things.
Thank you. So next is Councillor Rowntree. Do you mind just popping your microphone off a minute, Tom, and then we can see who asks the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Tom. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. Can I take you back to your experience at Wolves first, please? One of the slides you put up, you mentioned the headline that the club have got emissions down by 72%. That's obviously that's a really good score. I wonder, do you know roughly how much the club's emissions would amount to compared to fans driving to matches? I'm just thinking that that's potentially bigger than anything that the club could do to themselves. I don't know how much you know about that.
We have a good understanding of the carbon footprint for Wolves. So 70% of the club's overall footprint is fan travel. So gas is around 3%. In terms of the balance, the impact of fans is significantly greater than the operational impact of the club.
Okay, so 70% of total footprint is fan travel, as opposed to anything that might happen in the stadium or that players might do and all the rest of it. And then your 72% figure, then is that covering fan travel?
No, that's energy and fuel. So that is the club's. That's scope 1 and 2.
Scope 1 and 2, yeah. I think because with any of these sort of discussions, it's the scope 3 is always the killer, isn't it? Do you know how well you did in influencing fan travel? I mean, you've described a lot of sort of very sensible, good measures that you were taking, but anything on the impact and outputs?
We have data on how many fans took up the offer of the free bus travel. It hasn't, in terms of the overall fan travel carbon footprint, it hasn't made a major impact on that we can point to. It's a really big challenge that the whole of the football industry is, and equally, I don't think it's limited to the football industry in terms of trying to encourage more sustainable travel options to be taken. It's again requires, it's a sort of systemic problem that football can try and help and play a role in and frame as fan travel, but ultimately, requires quite significant infrastructure and changes to public transport provision.
Okay, so I mean, I don't want to belittle what you've been doing, but I mean, really, if all the Wolves fans, or indeed all Leeds fans, suddenly invested in electric cars, that would dwarf anything that can be done directly by the club, wouldn't it?
That's definitely true. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Just a last one from me. You mentioned sort of branching out and opportunities to make contacts. I wondered if you extended a fraternal hand to Leeds Rhinos.
Have I? Sorry. No, but would be great to connect up and understand the work that they're doing.
Great, thanks. I'll try and put you in touch if I can.
Thank you. Councillor Bromley.
Yes, second Councillor Roundtree's on the collaboration with Leeds Rhino Foundation. In terms of what was I going to say? I've totally forgotten. It was really good actually to see that you wanted to be and chose to be transparent about flights and that all of those were numbered. I wondered in terms of when it came to then that accountability, understanding that they were going to publish that publicly, if you saw a difference in sort of evaluating how many domestic flights they maybe chose to do. Was there any changes that came from that, or is it just simply that, look, we're going to be completely transparent and so open to essentially critique in some ways?
Yeah, I think the transparency was the main driver, and I guess when decisions are being made about team, elite football team operations, then sustainability is lower on the priority list than player recovery and travel time and various other factors. I think that's just that's a fact, and ultimately football clubs will be there are a few different levers that encourage football clubs to act, and some of those include fan expectations, media scrutiny and attention on an issue, and then clearly regulation and policy levers, whether that's from government requirements or league requirements that might be in place, or otherwise from footballing governance bodies. So currently there are no, rules and restrictions. There was a phase of higher media scrutiny on men's first team travel that I haven't seen so much recently. So I think, ultimately the position of Wolves is there is, the club does use public transport for certain journeys as much as possible, and it is transparent in terms of sharing what the balance of that is against flying and chartered flights. And I guess the position is that gives information with which to decide if something more systemically needs to be changed, or whether rules should be in place to address that.
Sorry. Thank you. Is that your only question?
That's everything. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. Anybody else wanting to come in with questions for Tom? Okay. Let me have a look at what's left on mine then, because a lot of it's been covered, really. Oh, yeah, I think the one that's left. You talked about Premier Leagues and collecting data on their carbon footprints. Is it a requirement that they publish that information?
It's not a requirement as such. It's referred to as a commitment. It's so the Premier League's environmental sustainability strategy includes a number of commitments and expectations of clubs, and the Premier League effectively are managing that as facilitating, and it being their role to help and provide support in things like carbon footprint calculation and verification process. It's not as strong as a requirement in the sense that it's a rule. It's currently being sort of a commitment delivered through support and encouragement.
Okay, thank you. I just thinking that links in with the whole transparency question that you've just been talking about, that, you know, if clubs can compare what they're doing to other clubs, it might have some influence, mightn't it? So, yeah, Polly, yeah.
Just with the pitches in peril and the sort of communication side of that, are there going to be some sort of bite-sized snippets and things? I was just thinking, so things like we've got a Leeds Parks sort of social media circulation, which isn't our normal climate side, but it would be a way to sort of maybe get some of those messages out, but it'd be really helpful if there's something that we can just share. I've just wondered how you were actually going to push that out. And I suppose the other comment is, I think it'd be helpful to maybe link you in with the Leeds Climate Commission as well. So you're talking about that sort of partnership working and things. I think that's maybe one opportunity we can take up after this meeting.
Great, thank you. Yeah. I mean, the Pitches in Peril content is kind of used by Football for Future in terms of social posts and articles and things like that. And we are working with various clubs to do similar sort of bite-sized pieces that will go out through match day programs and social media and so on. And yeah, Leeds Climate Commission. Yeah, I've been in contact and had a few discussions with them, but yeah, any connections that I haven't made, really keen to.
Thank you. So, looking at the table, doesn't seem like anybody else has got any questions. So, thank you for that. I think in terms of looking to collaborate, then, you know, we've got quite a lot to work on, really, haven't we? You talked about potential work with Leeds Rhinos, Leeds Parks. You've already mentioned the Climate Commission. And as I'm sure you know, the club does a lot of outreach work, doesn't it, with young people? So, you know, that's another venue for the Football for Future work as well. And I really liked the idea of the carbon offsetting thing being linked locally. I mean, you mentioned, Councillor Bromley, the local area that the club's in, and there is a wealth of activity happening not too far away in terms of local organisations that are doing climate work. So I think that would be a brilliant idea. So thank you so much for coming. I hope you found it useful. I'm sure we did here. And thank you to Claire as well, and thank you to Ian, who had to go. I think we generated a lot of food for thought, a lot of things for us all to do, and had a really useful discussion. So thank you very much. That means that we are now down to item 9, which is the date and time of the next meeting, which is the 23rd of March in here at 2 o'clock. So thank you to council officers who made it happen, to committee members who came, and to everybody who presented. Thank you.